If you're someone that takes care of your bettas by giving them the right size tank, providing them with a varied diet, and keeping their water clean, then you're doing everything that you possibly can to prevent diseases. But if you have a betta that has come down with ick or maybe an internal parasite or even some kind of a fungus infection, then you're going to want to stay tuned because I'm going to tell you exactly how to treat it. If you're someone that's followed this channel for a while, then you have heard me say before that it's easier to prevent a disease than it is to treat it. If you're doing preventative maintenance, then you won't need to go any farther. If you're keeping your fish in a proper size tank and you're keeping them with proper tank mates, if you're using the right kind of filtration and you're doing your water changes, then you're doing everything you possibly can to keep your betta happy. You also want to make sure that you have proper decorations for your betta. The last thing you want to do is put something in there that might tear his or her fins. You don't want to cause injury to your betta because you put the wrong kind of decoration in. Let's keep it simple, silk plants or even a live plant, which is probably the best for your betta. And last but not least, it's so important to have a varied diet for your betta. They need to have high protein foods, but it's also good to have something along the lines of spirulina. I say that because I've found that it really does help with keeping your betta's digestive system healthy. So, varied diet, super important. I know there's a ton of diseases and illnesses that I'm not even going to talk about today, but I do want to make sure that we focus more on the common diseases and illnesses. Let's start with ick. This is a parasite that is pretty common in a lot of fish, not just bettas, so this could pretty much help everybody. This is a parasite that spends part of its life cycle living on the skin of the fish and feeding off the tissue, but healthy fish are typically immune to the infection. Just remember that this parasite will manifest when changes happen in the aquarium, like poor water conditions or extreme temperature changes. This will weaken your betta's immune system and make them more susceptible to infection. How do you treat these white spots on your fish? What I would suggest is quarantine them in a tank by themselves. Keep the lights off to prevent stress and do 50% water changes every other day. Increase your temperature and add aquarium salt. In more severe cases, I would use a med like Fix-It by Fritz or even Super Ick Cure by API, but make sure you follow the manufacturer's instructions. Preventative measures would have been to quarantine your fish first, add aquarium salt, and catappa leaves, but we'll talk about those and the benefits of catappa leaves later. Let's move on to fungal infections. Does your betta have white, cottony patches on his body and fins? Then he most likely has fungus. This is contagious to other fish, so it's important to catch it quickly and take care of it before it spreads throughout your tank. Let's just say that your betta is in a tank by himself and you just need to treat him and nobody else. You're going to want to do 100% water change and use a med like Maricin by Fritz or Fungus Cure by API. Make sure to follow the manufacturer's directions and keep up with your water changes. Preventative measures would have been to add aquarium salt to your betta's water and catappa leaves. Another fungal infection is fin rot. This is when the edges of your betta's fins look jagged or eaten away. The best treatment would be 100% water changes and to use a medication for fungus like Maricin. I know I've already mentioned it before, but it might be something you want to keep on hand. Make sure to do your regular water changes every other day until you start to see the regrowth of the fins. Adding catappa leaves will help with the repairs as well, since they have chemicals with antibiotic properties. So we're going to talk about internal parasites, and they really suck. If you're vigilant of your beta's behavior and obsess over how he or she's doing, then you'll notice if your beta is losing weight or acting lethargic. This could be a sign of internal parasites, and it's very contagious to other fish. It's not always easy to know if you have an internal parasite. You might think your beta is just sick. You might not realize there's a parasite in there and it's eating away at the inside of your beta. I would start with 100% water change and aquarium salt. Repeat your water changes every other day, and if you don't see improvement in a few days, then try an antibiotic like Maricin 2. If you start to suspect that it is an internal parasite and the antibiotics aren't working, then you're going to want to move on to treat internal parasites with something like ParaCleanse by Fritz. Common Popeye, and dropsy are all common bacterial infections that are caused primarily by poor water conditions. Commonaris? Did I even say that? Did I say it right? Commonaris? You know what, I say Placo too, so who cares? The fact is, your fish is more susceptible to infections when their immune system is compromised by dirty water and stress. Believe it or not, stress can be caused by something just as simple as a temperature fluctuation. You might be wondering what Commonaris looks like. Maybe you've never experienced it before, so you're like, what even is it? Commonaris looks like white or grayish white spots on the head and around the fins and gills. Popeye is pretty easy to identify. You're going to notice that your beta has either one or both eyes protruding from his socket. To treat, do 100% water changes and add aquarium salt. Severe cases should be treated with antibiotics like Maricin by Fritz. Dropsy is when your beta's stomach is bloated and his scales are raised, and in severe cases, he might even look like a pine cone. Dropsy is usually fatal and very hard to treat, so preventative maintenance is key to making sure that your beta doesn't get dropsy to begin with. Swim bladder is usually caused by overfeeding. This is why I always stress to add spirulina to your beta's diet. Spirulina should not be the staple food for your beta, but it's good to feed it, in my opinion, once every other day, once every 3 days. This will help keep your beta's digestive system moving smoothly. And we could all use a little bit of that. A varied diet is the key to keeping your beta healthy and also preventing so many of these illnesses and diseases that I've talked about. It's also very important to make sure you keep your temperature at the right level. You want to keep it 78 to 80 because having it lower will cause your beta's digestive system to slow down, and we don't want that. If you notice that your beta is having a hard time swimming, it may be caused by a swim bladder. If the swim bladder is increased, the beta will most likely float to the surface and not be able to swim down to the bottom of the tank. When the swim bladder decreases, the beta will struggle to swim upwards and will rest at the bottom of the tank. Treatment for swim bladder is as easy as just fasting your beta for a day or two. You may even want to lower the water in your aquarium so that your beta is not trying to fight his way up to the top. This will make it easier and less stressful for your beta while he is getting better. The best prevention for swim bladder is a varied diet, keeping your water clean, and keeping that temperature up to 78 to 80. I hope I was able to help you out with some of the more common diseases and illnesses that your beta may get in the future. I hope you also understand that preventing these diseases is the key to a healthy beta. If you keep up with your water changes, if you have a varied diet for your beta, and you keep your temperature up to 78 to 80, your beta is going to live for a very long time. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Believe it or not, stress can be Believe it or not, stress can be okay. Believe it or not, stress can be caused. The fact is your beta is going to be no. The fact is your fish.
Years ago they tried to put me in a... Oh, this is live.